And are you all ready for an exciting evening? Welcome to the regular City Council meeting for December 2nd, 2024. Would you call roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Here.
Councilmember Maloney?
Here.
Councilmember Schmischer?
Here.
Councilmember Stein?
Here.
Councilmember Tracy?
Here.
Councilmember Worthington?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Here.
Mayor Troutman?
Here. Would you please rise for a pledge of allegiance? Thank you. So we have several citizens who would like to talk at this time, and if you've not talked, you come to the podium and we have a timer, and it's a segment for 3 minutes. It goes green, yellow, and red means that your time is up. So let's get started. We have Chris Moffett. You're going to talk about the budget, Minnequaw Dam, and administrator's report.
Good evening, Council. How you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, so I hear the budget. Oh, Mike, is it on? Yep. So the budget hasn't been decided yet, and I've got a great opportunity for y'all, a generational opportunity here. If y'all are aware of Minnequaw Dam, it's just upriver of Pathfinder Park, and recently, we've had an opportunity to work with another nonprofit. I'm representing Royal Gorge Rio right now. We're working with Arkansas River Watershed Collaborative, and there's been some movement on replacing the river-wide structure that currently hinders the movement of invertebrates, fish, and humans through the river. The structure was built in like 1948, and it hasn't been updated since. It has a massive impact on the river's health as well as the recreation community's ability to float the section. So this dam currently really harms the fishery, so we don't have as great a fishing through the section as we'd like to, as well as no one can float through it. It's a very dangerous portage and very unsafe. The grant that we're looking at is we need to match about $112,000, of which we've found, the numbers are moving constantly, but we've found about $70,000. I'm asking the city of Canyon City to recognize the economic impact that the ability to float through that section of river will make, and to help us match those funds needed to move forward. So I'm asking for whatever the city wants to do in recognition that this could potentially economically impact Canyon City for the future. It would be a massive generational impact, leaving a legacy for hundreds of years that we care about this section of river. I also have support from, they couldn't attend tonight, so I have support from Ty Cipher, owner of Royal Gorge Rafting, as well as Jimmy Whiteside, who sent me a letter via email to send to y'all, and then Will Colin supports it as well. So I thought that maybe this would be discussed during the administrator's report. I don't know, so I'll stick around for that just in case.
Okay. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
The next is Caleb McNeil. Did I say that right? You did. I did. Nice handwriting, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I don't get that.
Did you get that in high school here at Canyon City High?
No, sir. No, sir.
You didn't? Okay, go ahead.
I'm Caleb. I'm just a private boater from town. I have a young family that has grown up here on the Arkansas River. So just heard about this potential opportunity and just wanted to speak in favor of it. My kids have grown up playing in this wave and floating in inflatable rafts and kayaks down the stretch of river, and currently what we call a town float ends at Mackenzie. We can't go any farther than that. We know the impact that boating has had upriver from us. That is big water. It takes a lot of skill to come down through that area. This opens up opportunity for us to allow kids and families onto a section of river that's really beautiful and right now inaccessible to those of us that really enjoy that recreation. I think it would bring in a lot of families like mine that want that kind of an opportunity. So hope you consider it.
Thank you. Yates McConnell? Yates?
Good evening, Council. I'll give you one guess what I'm about to talk about. My name's Yates McConnell. I am an employee with Arkansas River Watershed Collaborative, the group taking the lead on this project right now. I'm also, as of mid-November, a resident of Canyon City, which I'm very excited about. And as much as I want to echo what has already been said, I also want to emphasize some of the more technical aspects of this grant and this process and what we're working through. And if you decide, as I am going to request, to participate and contribute financially to this project, what that really means and what that's a part of. We're fundraising for a planning effort through Colorado Water Conservation Board to be able to get full designs for engineering for this project, to basically take out or repair the dam, whatever that may mean, to suit Evraz, City of Florence, other water users off the diversion's needs, and be able to put in recreational opportunities. There's a safety hazard with the dam with large rotating gates at the base of it. People can get sucked through. That's a really big concern of ours. I think, frankly, our partner Evraz, it's also a concern of theirs. If someone gets injured in their dam, that's a really big headache for them, and it could be a headache for, well, it would be a headache for local emergency services. Other partners that we have, I know a couple have already been mentioned: Arkansas River Outfitters Association, ARCC, Fremont County is a partner. We've talked to the City of Florence about potentially being able to participate. Really, I think what's important to Arwick in this project is it being a community effort, and really it coming from the community saying to Evraz in particular, we really want this is important to us, and we are going to make it happen. So yeah, we come here tonight asking whatever it is that you can give to be a part of that voice, have a seat at the table, and be a partner on this exciting project that, as I understand, has really been in the works for a long time, and it feels like now's a really good chance to get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Are we going to talk about this, or I have some questions, so should I wait?
Yeah, it is part of the administrator report, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you. Hang around. So we're going to take a break from that dam, and we're going to talk to Sammy Berman. Would you come up?
Good evening, Mayor Troutman, Council.
Good evening.
My name is Sammy Berman. For those of you that don't know me, which aren't too many of you, I am a business person. I own the Artist Gallery, 400 block of Main Street. We will be celebrating 15 years in that location. And for a business in downtown Canyon, that's pretty darn good. So it is a collective of about 40 to 50 artists, and they're all local people. So I am speaking on their behalf as well as my own. My parents moved to Canyon City in 1938. They've been in business their entire lives until the day they died. That rubbed off on me. When I came home to take care of my father, there was a business that was up for sale. I decided that I owned this town a lot because I had a wonderful childhood, and I was raised on Main Street. Because my parents were business people, it was the Main Street people, merchants, that said, all right, Sammy, don't you do that. So I had a pretty good upbringing. So I felt like I owed Canyon City. And so therefore I bought this business. I've worked very hard to make it a success. Now I'm here tonight to be the Grinch and talk about the Christmas tree lighting. Last year, when that was scheduled on First Friday, the Artist Gallery was affected by having 0 sales. The first time in that point of 14 years that we had 0 sales. We had 3 customers walk in the store. They were all from out of town. So for the idea that the tree lighting brings people downtown is incorrect. We proved that last year. The main thing with that Christmas tree lighting is a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful community affair. Children come, they have a wonderful time. But I can tell you, any of you who are parents, Do you want to take a child shopping after they've been drinking hot chocolate, playing snowballs, et cetera, et cetera? No. They're cold, they're tired, they're wound up tighter than drums. Get them home and get them to bed. So it does not work in that respect. So last year I asked if that would be taken into consideration, and I asked 3 different council people to do that, to recognize it. I was ignored. This is an important factor for us. It is 3 hours out of the year where we can make up for losses that have happened during the year in our businesses. The snow, when we had to close, a lot of businesses lost a lot of money during that time. So there are various other things that we have worked so hard to make downtown a pleasant place to be. But the only way we can do that is we can keep our doors open. So I ask you this afternoon, please consider next year putting it on another date. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sammy. So noted. Let's go back to Andy Ninus. Andy?
I get to talk about the damn dam. Perfect.
Well, you're
No-
damned
nowhere
if you
near a
do, you're
printer
damned
today.
if you don't.
I'm sorry?
You're damned if you do, you're damned if
That's
you
right.
don't.
That's right. Nowhere near a printer today, so sorry, guys. I do better with notes. So my name is Andy Ninus. Those guys did such a nice job. They were so nice. I'm here to, quite frankly, be a little more forceful, and I'm going to explain why. My name is Andy Ninus. I own and operate Echo Canyon River Expeditions, the Royal Gorge Cabins, and the 8 Mile Bar and Grill located up on the top of 8 Mile Hill. 2024 marked my 38th consecutive year here on the Arkansas River. So I'm here on behalf of my organization, as well as a longtime resident who raised 3 kids in town, from Washington Elementary through Canyon City High School. As one of the more tenured voices in our industry, I've also been asked to represent the Arkansas River Outfitters Association, as well as the Arkansas River Conservation Cooperative, which was mentioned a little while ago. I would like to speak to you about the opportunity that is the Minnequa Dam, and I think opportunity is probably the word that we should be using. The commercial river industry has been an economic engine for Canyon City and the greater Fremont County region for many decades. In that time, I can honestly say our industry has never asked for financial support from the city of Canyon City, not one time. Just this fall, a lot of energy was put into Canyon City's first outdoor recreation summit, which I happily attended along with members of city staff. Quite frankly, we have lagged other river communities for a long time, despite our many local successes, developing and capitalizing on an asset that pulses through our very own community. This is about an opportunity. It is about an opportunity many of us must take responsibility for, quite frankly, including the city of Canyon City. The most obvious reason is that of public safety. If you are unaware, the Minnequa Dam is the last standing obstruction on the Arkansas River between its headwaters and Pueblo Reservoir. It serves an important function, one that is enshrined in water law and economic significance, yet is a hazard greater than any high water rafting trip on this river. Even those of us who are true river professionals avoid this feature, and quite frankly, that says a lot if you know anything about running rivers in Colorado. Then there is the economic argument for why we need to seize this opportunity. The river industry's published economic value analysis report shows that in 2022, river-wide, we generated $38 million in direct expenditures. Remember, we are audited by the state of Colorado each and every year. You can call 539-7289 and ask for this information. Let's see here. Those were our direct expenditures. We also were about 49.4 in economic output. Although our industry is largely seasonal, our employment equivalency is 498 full-time jobs. This is commercial river traffic only, does not include the repeat value of private boating, the private boating community and various events that now showcase the river community, like our very own Royal Gorge Whitewater Festival. The redevelopment of the Minnequa Dam will equip our community with a new asset that has been unavailable to us for almost 100 years. In addition to the commercial river industry will leverage opportunities to bring new guests, new business, new shoppers, anglers, lodgers, diners, and the associated tax revenue to Canyon City. That said, as a river purist and local, I am most excited to know we will no longer be hobbled, and I look forward to the rediscovery of my own backyard. Quite frankly, the question is not whether Canyon City should participate financially, but in fact, how much will you participate? So I will respectfully request $15,000. The river industry, commercial outfitters generated $15,000. RG Rio generated 10. That's 25 grand. We got 10 from the county. If we can get 15 from you, that'll be 25 from the river community and 25 from the community in which we live. So happy to answer questions, but I'm out of
Okay.
time.
Thank you,
guys.
Andy. Okay, Beth. Beth, oh, there you are.
Hi, I'm Beth Ketchmar, and it's hard to follow such eloquent remarks that Andy gave us about. He had some great information, and he as well has a lot of knowledge about this issue. I'm just speaking as a member of the community for the last 20 years who's put a lot of time and effort into developing our Whitewater Park as a founding member of WKRP, and into all the Whitewater festivals and all the additional effort that we put into the river every year. I think the river is our most valuable asset that we have in our community, and the more that money and time and effort that we can put into it to continue to make our presence on the river grow and make it more beautiful the whole way along. I have personally canoed the section of the river from the Centennial Park all the way down to Florence Park, probably about 5 or 6 times with another man who you may know, and we have portaged our canoe over that dam several times, and it's very exciting, it's very tasking, and it would be a wonderful thing to see it made into a more accessible unit. I hope that we can also someday have a river walk that goes all the way from Canyon City to Florence. I think it would be extremely valuable and really put us on the map as a community that embraces our river and loves our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
May I add something?
Well, I had Amy, why don't you hold on a minute? I'm sorry, I missed you. Amy, did you have when?
Oh, I had a question for
Sammy? Yes, go
so
ahead.
if Tim is about the river.
I just have just one quick comment on where Beth is talking about, if anybody does go down there and they try to portage alongside of that, get out, they're trespassing. I mean, so you cannot get out and move along there. It is trespassing.
Absolutely, and if that dam were to be removed, I mean, when you think about the economic driver of being able to float all the way from Canyon safely to Pueblo, I mean, that's huge. So looking forward to the administrator report discussion about that.
Did you want to talk to Sammy?
Yeah, I think I heard you correctly, Sammy, when you referenced that no one came into the shop last December 1st Friday, and that was the same evening as the Christmas tree lighting. Could you just speak a little bit about what that did to your business or kind of how that hurt your year-end sales? I think I understand from a lot of our Main Street businesses that First Fridays are really kind of when they see a significant amount of sales, and I would imagine that that's particularly true for the holiday season.
Thank you very much for that question. On the average, in the Artist Gallery, we usually have 50 to 150 people come through there. We were the beginning of the art walk in Canyon City, so we've worked very hard with the other merchants in order to build enthusiasm and et cetera. So what does that mean to us? Our average sales are anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500. So that 0 mark made a huge difference in our sales. And so we look forward to that because our First Fridays are our major selling time of the year, and it's only 3 hours, but it's a wonderful experience. And many of you who haven't experienced it, I would highly recommend that you do that. Come down and see us.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Did that answer your question, Amy?
It did, yeah.
Okay.
And I would just like to state for the record, I would appreciate it if the city could endeavor to not schedule Christmas tree lightings or other city events that are multi-hours on First Fridays. It seems like there are plenty of other evenings in the month when those could be scheduled. I think we often say that we are business friendly and that this is a very key way of kind of walking that walk. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Sammy. And I just thought that would bring a lot more people in, but I can see the conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And the hot chocolate will put them to sleep, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, just kidding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's it. So it goes to council members' announcements or any board updates. Who would like to start? Emily.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to mention that the Black Hills rate increase evidentiary hearing before the Public Utilities Commission began today. I think it is scheduled to run a couple of weeks, and it's like every day, all this week and at least part of next week, if not all. And it is for those interested in how that evidentiary hearing goes. It's only the parties to the case that are part of that hearing. And it is broadcast live on the Public Utilities Commission YouTube channel, so you can find it there. I'll mention too that there is one more public comment hearing in the rate case, and that's an online hearing this Thursday from 4 to 7. And if you're interested in making comments to the commissioners, if you weren't able to do it when we had the in-person hearing here, you should register ahead of time for that hearing. Again, Thursday, 4 to 7. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? It was a quiet bunch. So I had the opportunity to pack boxes for the military. We at the Legion send out Christmas boxes. We had about 100 and some boxes we packed. And while I was there, I happened to a gentleman who was a historian about Pearl Harbor. And you know, this Saturday and Pearl Harbor was bombed December 7th, 1941. And in that, let me just read what I had gleaned from everything I told him. The attack occurred, and during that attack, 2,403 soldiers and airmen and Navy sailors lost their lives. The USS Arizona was sunk, and with the loss of 1,177 soldiers and 96 Marines. There are still 900 and some bodies remaining in that sunken ship. Of the many that perished that day, 41 were from Colorado. And I found it was surprised that 5 of them were from Fremont County. 2 from Canyon City, 2 from Florence, and 1 from Penrose. I had never heard that before, and I've been to that memorial twice. So the VFW on Cottonwood is going to have a discussion, a ceremony at 10 o'clock on the 7th, and I invite you to come out to that. That was very interesting. And if you come out, there's a free spaghetti feed. All they'd ask for is a donation to help replace their roof. But I was shocked that I was there at that memorial twice in Hawaii, and that there are 5 people from Fremont County still in that ship. So 2 from Canyon, 2 from Florence. I'd like to get their names, and I think this gentleman was going to get them for me. So he may have that there. So we invite you to come out. It's Saturday, 10 o'clock at the VFW. And then we had the pleasure of attending the opening of the Bridge of Lights at the Royal Gorge. And that is spectacular. Matter of fact, I've been out there twice now. I've had people, I tell them about it, and I take them out. It's absolutely stunning what they've done with that bridge. But our bridge, you gotta go, really. It's just beautiful. And then, of course, we have the tree lighting. And then the Christmas parade is Saturday. So, and then general government is Thursday, Friday, Wednesday. This is a test, and I failed terribly. So, thank you all. Yes, John.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And also that there will be a Fremont Center for the Arts discussion at 4:30 before the general government meeting on this Wednesday. And Wednesday morning is KRLN again, and so looking for volunteers to come into the radio stations to talk at 8:30 Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. So we'd have the administrator review the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of council, item 7A is to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting on November 18th, the Vision Committee meeting November 20th, and the special meetings on November 8th, which was the Brownfield public hearing, November 14th, Community Relations at the prison, November 18th, which was an executive session, November 19th, which was the PUC public comment, November 20th, which was an executive session, and November 20th, which was the Water Committee. 7B is to award bid 9-24 Rainbird IQ4 irrigation equipment to Site 1 Landscape Supply Company in an amount not to exceed $10,685.86. 7C, awards bid 62-23, pavement coring to CMT Technical Services in an amount not to exceed $35,000, and authorize the city administrator to sign the professional services agreement. 7D is to receive and file the 2023 cost allocation plan. 7F is to receive and file cash disbursements for ratifying purchases. 7F is to receive and file cash disbursements.
Thank you, Ryan. Are there any corrections or additions to the agenda, the consent agenda? Amy?
I had a couple of questions on the cost allocation plan, and I'm wondering if it would be possible to move it to after the administrator's report, just given how many folks we have in the audience to talk about and questions that council might have for them to talk about the Minnequaw Dam.
Okay. Is that okay with council? Okay. I see a lot of head nodding. Sure. Any other? So we're going to take the consent item D, and we're going to put that after the administrator's report, just to be clear. Correct? Okay. So with that exception, could I ask for a motion and a second?
Mayor Troutman, I move that we accept the consent agenda, moving item 7D to 9A, or just after 8A, and approving the rest as written.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion on that motion? Would you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay. The much waited for city administrator's report.
You have the written report. I'm not going to go into details about all of it, but do want to discuss the Minnequaw Dam. Most of what I had written in the report has already been covered by our wonderful speakers thus far in the meeting. A couple of things, I want to call out that this is for design. This is not construction. The grant is a 25% match. So they are looking for matching funds. They do have funds from Evraz, RG Rio, Aroa, ARCC, Fremont County, BLM, have all put in. So it sounds like they may have some additional funds since this report was written. And again, this replacement of the dam would allow uninterrupted recreational use from Canyon City to Pueblo. And while this project's not within the city limits, it does have potential tourism impact and recreational impact for Canyon City and our residents. So with that, I'd open it up to council for any discussion or questions.
Okay. We discussed this at the Vision Committee or last council meeting, or?
I don't know that we've discussed this one, at least not in this detail. There's a different project that's related to beautification within the corridor that falls within the city limits. That is not this project. This is a separate project. This is the dam. Minnequaw Dam is just outside of Pathfinder Park and between here and Florence.
Yeah, I know where it's at because I've trespassed apparently going around the dam. I didn't know that. So who's the lead on that? Would someone do you know who's the lead? Who's in charge of this program? And
I think Chris Moffett, do you want to come up, or was it Yates?
I just had some questions on that because it's privately owned by Everest now. It used to be CF&I. It sounds like they're in agreement on this because it helps to get their water into their Minnequaw ditch.
Correct, yeah.
And
so this structure, Royal Gorge Rio has been talking to Evraz for the past 5 years. The guy saying no retired, and the new guy says yes. So, and Arwick found the guy that says yes now. The reason it feels like it's the 11th hour on this because there are ARPA funds that are going to die on December 31st, and CWCB basically found this grant for us because they like the project so much. So it isn't due to lack of planning that we're at the 11th hour right now. It's literally they approved us at the end of October, and so now we're kind of scrambling to get this going. But the important thing is that you know, this structure is going to be re-engineered and make sure that all the people along the ditches receive their water decree, because Evraz has to get their decree, because this water is actually used at the steel mill in Pueblo.
So is Avarice the lead on this program, or are you on the lead? Who is that?
So RWIC, my organization that I work for, is really the lead on the project. The specific grant that we're applying for pays for a third party to come in and design and everything. Because we are an eligible entity under the grant, we can basically be the name on the grant, but we've been talking to Evraz and kind of planning this with Evraz, and we, you know, had conversation with Chris since, June, July? Like it's been going on for a while. And so while our name is on it, it really is a coalition of a lot of different partners.
So the money that you're allocating, looking for now is for engineering, not construction?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Any ideas then on the cost of construction?
I could give you a lot of numbers that are all pretty far apart, and
Okay,
so no.
So, okay.
Multiple millions of dollars.
And the caveat to that too is that this engineering plan gets us to shovel-ready status, and it's far easier to find grants once
Okay.
you're shovel-ready.
And I will also add that this specific program that we are applying for, part of the deliverable that we're, from the engineering firm that we contract with through the program, is to write that large federal grant to fund most of construction.
Okay, thank you. Amy?
I was just going to ask a clarifying question. So part of the engineering design both ensures that there is safe passage for humans and fish, and also and boats, and also ensures that the water can safely be diverted to Minnequaw and to the folks who are along the Minnequaw ditch.
Yes, this should not, well, it will not impact the ability to access water rights at all.
So, from my perspective, I just want to commend you guys from the number of different entities that you have reached out to and gotten support from the rafting community to BLM to the county to Evraz itself, when it sounds like you've been in talks with them for many years without getting much of a response at all. I, for one, am in full support of the city contributing a small amount of funding towards this match, given that it is a 25% match of a much larger project, and given the widespread support that there appears to be from a wide variety of entities throughout our community, I don't really see a downside to it.
Okay, thank you. John?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, just so I understand, the match that you guys have to raise is $150,000. Is that correct?
It's down to 112,000.
It's down to 112.
Yeah. So I'll let you.
Yeah, basically, because of the shortened timeline on this, they kind of said, we think it'll be about 150,000. They went off and they did their scoping and their budgeting and everything, and when we got the final number back, it was 112.
And where are you in terms of reaching that goal?
It literally might be different since I got up from my phone about 5 minutes ago, because I know there are a couple groups meeting tonight about this. We are around 25-ish away.
Okay, Emily?
My question is just looking ahead, just to get a little more information, what you expect in terms of the next phase, the construction phase. You mentioned a possible grant. Would that be another situation where there's a local match required, or what do we know about that?
Because of we would have more time to plan on that because of the shortened timeline on this particular grant that we wouldn't have on a subsequent, construction grant. Probably not. I think we're definitely also hoping that Evraz can kick in some more for construction. This is, from my perspective, saving them money on future repairs, frankly. No.
So we don't quite know what that will look like in terms of how the revenue will break out, who needs to contribute what at the construction phase.
And The other thing too is we have Trent, he represented the fisheries. He didn't get to speak. But we have Patagonia and Orvis and other large organizations that are very interested in supporting this, but they'll only provide money for construction. I believe one of those organizations has already pledged $50,000 towards that, so.
Okay, thank you.
One further question?
Yes, go right ahead.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the beneficial effect, or what has been mentioned, the beneficial effect on the fisheries. Is Colorado Parks and Wildlife going to be a player in this?
Yes, and they are very much in full support with state government funding cycles. We are, literally spoke with them this morning and last week and probably later this week about trying to get them to be a financial partner. They are definitely a very vocal advocate for this project.
Okay, Amy.
Thanks. Just with our funding cycles being what they are, I think it would also be helpful to understand what exactly you need from us and by when.
A letter of support stating whatever financial commitment you may put in as soon as possible. And then we will, as the work begins in 2025 and we begin to get reimbursed, the money will basically need to be provided, February, March, somewhere in there.
Tim.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tim?
I'm just going to throw this out too. I like this idea. I've been down by this dam as well. But I also look at this could be also an economic impact for Canyon. As people come in to float down to Pueblo and that, they're going to park here, they're going to float to Pueblo, and then they're going to come back. They're going to spend their money here because there's not a whole lot between the reservoir when you get out at the reservoir and come back to Canyon. I think this is a win-win. It's not just for the, I don't want to say rafting community because that enables, but we think of rafters as white water and that, but this goes well beyond that. This goes to fishermen and just, like you said earlier, the family just wanting to take an easy float. And I think this is a fantastic idea.
Yeah, this will open it up to where, people could rent tubes in Canyon City and float down there and then take a shuttle trip back. It's a great business opportunity, and it really is. It's the section we're missing. I don't want to compare us to Salida because I think we're way better, but what they do have up there is the Milk Run, and the Milk Run is this section that floats through town, and everybody loves it. We don't have the Milk Run. There's no there's no full day trip for families to do, and this would open up full day trips for just common recreation, as well as all the raft companies. Andy Ninus pointed out that the rafting industry is moving towards family floats, and so this will be an opportunity for the local companies to compete with Salida, who has those family floats available.
Okay. I'm going to open the bidding at $15,000. No. Can we comment on the money amount? Or
so what I would suggest, I wasn't coming in to suggest 15, I'm sorry, Andy. But if this is something that council's interested in, there's $6,000 from the 2024 budget under council projects in the budget book. There's $6,000 budgeted next year under council projects. That would be a total of 12 if council wanted to go that route or somewhere in between.
Okay. Thank you. Emily?
Thanks. I had one more really important question, and that is, how long does it take to float from Canyon City to Pueblo? Do we know?
I did the river miles today on our GIS system we have, and it's about 11.3 miles, which is literally a perfect day trip right there. You get maybe 5 miles in the morning, pop over to Pathfinder Park, have lunch with your family, and then proceed the other 5 miles to Florence. So it'd be an awesome trip.
Thanks.
Amy? Thank you. Amy?
I think that we could possibly come up with another 3,000. So I personally would be in support of the 15,000. I think that that's a perfectly reasonable amount of funding for Canyon to chip in.
I'm on board. I started the bidding at 15,000, so. What does the council think?
I'm in support of this as well. If Ryan thinks it needs to be 12 to keep everything in line, that's fine, but if we can come up with 15, I'm okay with that as well.
And I agree with trying to make it up to the 15 that they're asking for.
Can we try that, Ryan? Can we try that?
We
All right.
yeah, we can find another 3.
We can find the other 3.
Check the couch cushions, yeah.
Tammy has the checkbook. Come on. Okay, let's try that. Okay?
Thank you very much, council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
Okay, then we're going to go into public hearing. And no? Where am I at?
The allocation.
The consent agenda was altered.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. So 9, yeah, that would be the cost allocation plan. We'd like to comment on that.
Did you want me to ask my questions, or did you guys want to give a presentation? I wasn't sure.
I do have our consultant online, Lucas Brown. I was like, it's on. So Lucas Brown is on, so he's available to answer questions. We do not have an actual slideshow presented or prepared for you. So, you know, if you have just questions, you can go ahead and feel free to ask them.
Awesome. I think my primary concern is just if the water district represents approximately 15% of our FTE and we're charging 15% of a whole host of city sections to the water district, does that mean that we are do all of those city departments actually spend 15% of their time on water-related issues? And should we be charging the Water Enterprise Fund that high of an amount of money? I do understand that we have been able to do allocation on a much more specific basis for some of the other departments, so that we're establishing the statistical measurement for the basis of allocation in a way that most appropriately demonstrates its relationship to the receiving unit. And I know that that may not always be possible. It's all, you know, it's obviously pretty easy with something like facilities or fleets. But when it comes to, you know, our city attorney, or when it comes to the public information officer, or when it comes to non-departmental, you know, should the water, if we approve $150,000 tonight for a poles and wires study, should we really be charging the Water Enterprise Fund 15% of that? If that's falling under non-departmental. So I'm concerned about the way that we're doing our cost allocation plan, with so much of it being done on an FTE basis as opposed to on a specific, measurable, demonstrably measurable in terms of what they are actually receiving from these departments.
So,
Sorry, can everyone hear me? Just to make sure.
Yes, go ahead, please.
So when it comes to cost allocation plans, and choosing the allocation methodology that we use, there isn't an absolute correct choice. We have a framework that we work from, because every government is different, so the circumstances that we encounter are going to vary. So the methods that we use, they can vary a lot, and there's not a correct one. We just have to find which one produces an equitable distribution of costs. Now, when we, actually let me back up a step. At the inception of when we prepared the cost allocation plan, we did meet with the individual departments to get an understanding of what functions they provided and what data they have. And if they had data that they tracked that would allow us to, that was more closely related to the functions they performed, Like for fleet, they have vehicle counts, or for IT, they have devices. We would use that. But that's not always the case. In instances where a department maybe does not have data available to that they track that would allow us to identify an amount to individual receiving departments, or in cases where maybe the department's support that they provide is a little bit more, I guess, varied or can be viewed at an enterprise-wide level. In those instances, we fall back to aiming for an equitable allocation. And that's when we would use things like FTEs, or sometimes you'll see expenditures and stuff like that. And it's because we don't have anything more accurate to use that is more closely related and quantifiable. That is a kind of the industry standard way of handling this, because this is a situation that we run into with pretty much every client. And it's also approved by the federal government. We negotiate some of these plans with the feds, and that's just kind of the way those items are handled. Now, we do, like I said, we meet with the departments at the beginning of each cycle, and we ask if there have been any changes, if they started tracking any additional data. So there is a continuous effort to obtain more accurate and more detailed information, but we are, beholden to the availability of data at the time.
So we do, when we send out that request for data to the departments, streets is a good example. We ask them about how much time they spend in each of the areas, whether it is snow removal, patching, the concrete cuts, or street sweeping. And then based on that, they come up with a percentage of time, how much actually goes to water, how much is general fund, how much is stormwater. They also have Cartograph to track those hours. We did meet with Travis and Leo and Lucas. We all had a meeting to discuss the usage of Cartograph data. One of the issues we have with using solely Cartograph is it isn't capturing everything that the streets department does for any of the enterprises. And so we're still trying to fine tune some of the tools that we have to capture that data. And then if you look at, let's say, like finance, they'll ask for the number of our P-card transactions. They ask for number of payments that we have done, and we can break out those dollar amounts by funds and such. So they do allocate some of finances time based on those type of things. So the areas we can, we do that. There are some departments that are not allocated to the water fund or to the stormwater fund, but we do go ahead and allocate costs to them from everyone else. Because if you look, you will see how much is allocated from, let's say, finance to streets or whoever. There's different breakdowns on how things are allocated out throughout.
And to be clear, I'm not concerned about any of the others where it is much more specific, where you are tracking through Cartograph or you are tracking by the number of vehicles. My concern is really only on those where it is being allocated out based on number of full-time equivalencies. And why this matters so much from my perspective is obviously the Water Enterprise Fund has to balance out, and we have to charge people a water rate that covers this full cost allocation plan. So it is really important from my perspective that we get it right and that we aren't inadvertently charging the water department more than their fair share because we just don't have a better way to measure it. And I am concerned that, some of the ones where it is done based on the full-time equivalency, mayor, city council, city clerk, city administrator, public information officer, city attorney contract, memberships, that if you were to just look at the number of full-time equivalent positions in our water distribution and treatment, that doesn't mean that water distribution and treatment takes up that proportion of those departments' time.
Yeah, so we do, that is a common concern that we run into. And a few points on that. The first is, items like the mayor and city council, city clerk, and the city administrator. For those, the functions that are being performed aren't really clearly defined, right? We can't identify a number of units of service that, maybe the city administrator did for individual departments, right? They're providing leadership and administrative functions that support the city at an enterprise level as a whole. And so we use the FTEs as kind of a, how do I put this? It's sort of we view it as representing the organization, the city as a whole. And if a department has more employees, the logic being that it is a larger portion of the city. Now, that sorry, let me gather my thoughts here. That is the industry standard. I prepare probably 30 or 40 of these cost allocation plans a year. And I think I have 2 clients who do something besides FTEs. One of them, they go in and they have someone go through their council agenda minutes and take every agenda item and identify what department it is to. And I think we had to maybe discuss that briefly, but it was, there's also concerns with, how difficult it is to obtain the information, things of that nature. So I can tell you that, what we are doing on FTEs, especially stuff like the mayor and city council and the city clerk, that is the industry standard way of handling it, and we don't really have a way to identify those costs to specific things. For some of them, we can definitely explore going forward. I mean, for all of these, we can definitely sit down and talk about it more going into the next cycle. But there are some more than others that we may be able to identify more. Perhaps like the memberships, we may be able to look at identifying exactly what memberships were paid for. I think when we were developing the plan, that information just wasn't available at the time. But again, like I said, this is kind of the industry standard way of doing it, and we don't have a better way of identifying the amount of benefit provided by the city administrator or the city clerk to the different departments.
And to add on to that, by using the FTEs, it also helps to have a consistent basis of allocation, because there can be years where water or stormwater has more items. Let's say if we used agenda counts. So there could be some years when the costs end up coming in significantly higher. One of the big differences between a prior year cost allocation plan and this recent one, the one we're looking at tonight, was the number of street patches. And that is something that significantly impacts the amount of transfer from water to general fund, and that one fluctuates every year, but that is something we can identify. So by utilizing the FTEs, I think it helps to keep that allocation level the same versus fluctuating so much. But like Lucas said, we can look at the different ways to allocate out in the future. The way we're also doing it now is based on our actual expenses versus our budgeted expenses. In prior years, prior to 2019, we were doing the cost allocation based on budget. And when you look at that, that is a significant difference between budget and actual. And so that's why we're just now approving our 2023 cost allocation plan, when we're going into our 25 budget year. So that's just, as a FYI.
John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as I understand this is a system that is somewhat algorithm-based, that essentially you use different you use kind of a model of how a city works, and other statistical measures like FTEs and things like that to put into the algorithm that comes up with the cost allocation that we have seen presented here before us. My question is, at the end of the day, because the, models are something and algorithms are something that we like them because they're scientific based and they tend to produce the same answers given the same set of data. But given the nature of business activities that we have in the city, after the allocation is done, does someone sit down with the allocation and say, and kind of ask the questions that Councilmember Schmischer is asking? Is it reasonable? Is it logical? I mean, logic is kind of built into the system. Maybe that's not the correct word to use, but does it meet a common sense standard for the final result? And so does someone do that? Does someone perform that function for us to sit down and look at the whole thing and say, and try to look at step back from the specific calculations and say, does this really represent what's going on?
So we are provided from the consultant a spreadsheet that shows the significant swings one way or another. One of the big ones this year, as I mentioned, was our street cuts, where it had a significant decrease. So we wanted to make sure that that wasn't an error. And so we met with Tony from Streets, we had Leo involved, we had Travis involved, and Tarla, and we discussed it. It was also a concern in our 22 cost allocation plan because it was significantly higher than the previous years. And it was based on the actual activities that had been completed. So we do look at those outliers, and if anything looks out of line, then we ask the consultants to look at the data again and maybe see if there is some different way that we need to be doing it. So we do look at all of the significant changes. Did I miss anything on that, Lucas?
No, I think you covered it pretty succinctly. We do have a review period every time we prepare the draft where I'll go through all the different allocations. I'll note any major variances. I'll talk about why that happened. And then, so there is a subsequent discussion every time this plan is prepared to talk about what's changed, and there's an evaluation involved. Yes.
Are we going to have a further discussion on this? Because if you have actual for a year, and then we're still just doing 15%, is that compared to actual, or am I looking at it wrong? Because you said that it compares to actual, and then we're saying that we're just going to overall start out with a 15% allocation.
The 15%
It
is
may
more
help
for general administrative.
Okay.
Yeah, when we're looking at actuals, we're looking at, things where there were the actual activities, as Tammy mentioned, like with the streets department, fixing street cuts or utility cuts and things like that, particularly for the water department. I think it gets really hard when you're talking about G&A, and you're gonna, if there's another method to do it, you're probably gonna run into that law of averages where some years it's gonna be higher, some years it's gonna be lower.
And I can understand that. I understand Amy's point about, we may have to increase, or heaven forsake, government would decrease anything, but have that back and forth. I understand that. And that's a good question, but Amy, again.
Sorry, I just want to make sure I understood your last intervention, Administrator Stevens. So we still are only using actuals for everything that is an FTE allocation, correct?
So the allocation is based on the actual financial transaction of the
Perfect.
line item.
Perfect.
And
Thank you.
then, yes, so it's
Yep.
of the percentage of what we actually spent.
Yeah, and the difference then would be almost, we know administration is there, and so we don't know how to quantify that. So the best way to do it is take maybe a national average and say, this is an algorithm that usually works, and that's what is, the actuals are there, you have that. But, I mean, it's just, I guess we could say that Travis feels a lot better knowing that our administrator is back here to back him up. I'm joking, of course, but he's got a thumbs up. Okay, so it's that intangible that is there. It's there. It's quantifiable, but it's intangible. So.
It is, and I think Travis, as the water superintendent, he's the one that's having, he's getting into the weeds on these debates on whether or not something is, as Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick was suggesting, is this reasonable? Does this have common sense?
Okay, let's get Travis out of the weeds. Okay, would we like to continue the discussion, or are we okay with everything?
I think I'm the only one who may have concerns here. So love the idea of this coming year, seeing if there are additional ones that it may be possible to have kind of a more granular look at, such as memberships or particularly some of the bigger ticket items like city attorney contract and things like that. So that we can ensure that we aren't overcharging the water and stormwater fund, but also understand that there is a law of diminishing returns there, where you don't want to spend so much time analyzing things that it's actually taking more staff time away from the very busy work in the finance department.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. Okay, shall we move on?
I think we still need to have a vote to accept and file, or to receive and file.
Okay, so I'd ask then for a motion to accept that the allocation method that has been proposed. Is that correct? Someone like to make that motion?
I so move.
Emily? Who? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, then Emily, you want to
I'll
take?
second.
You'll take the second, thank you. Any discussions on that motion? Would you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, well, thank you all. Interesting discussion. So let's open the public hearing regarding this is the budget hearing, and we go to Tammy.
So this evening will be we will close our 2025 budget hearing. The changes, we do have changes that were presented to council for the budget that we are looking to adopt with Resolution 18. General fund did have increases of $537,631. That was primarily from we have the addition of the deputy city administrator, changes in personnel costs due to filling vacancies, changes in benefit coverages, the removal of the 3-axle box trailer and the addition of the bucket lift truck in the streets department, and then also the increased transfer to quality of life. There were also some reductions in general fund that helped net us down to the change of the $537,631. The police department created a 501c3 this year, and so you will no longer see the Shop with a Cop or members benefit or the golf tournament expenses going through the city. That will be all handled through the newly formed, I think it's the Third Watch, 501c3. So the expenses and the associated donations were removed from the 2025 budget. We did also have changes in our Parks Improvement Fund of $20,925, and that was also due to personnel costs and to filling vacancies and then changes in potential benefits. The Quality of Life Fund, we did increase that to include our EPA cleanup grant. We did not have it included initially. The addition of the swimming pool construction tax fund was a change. And then we also needed to include our street improvement district number 2014-01, which is Fund 48. We're anticipating that it is going to close next year, and so that means that we'll receive the final payments from the individuals in that area. Then we close that fund to our excess special improvement fund, and we need to do this based on the recommendation of our auditors. And then our water fund increased due to changes in the personnel costs. That increased $20,400, and that was also again related to filling vacancies and benefit changes. So those are the high level of the changes for that will be presented in our 2025 budget. So that's what I have for the hearing.
Any questions of Tammy on that? We all received that, so if you had time to look at it. Awful quiet. Any questions on the changes of the budget? I don't, okay. Oh. Amy.
Just one. Could you speak a little bit as to the difference between the library donation fund and museum donation fund, which we still see represented in here? Is that because they don't have their own separate 501c3s? And the difference between that and this new police third watch 501c3?
The city receives those donations directly on behalf of the library and the museum, and they have significant funds that have accumulated in those. I don't know when those funds were established or exactly why, but we do maintain those separately. I don't know if City Administrator Stevens has any historical background on that.
I don't know if I have historical background on that, but I think there's also separate 501c3 for the library, Friends of the Library, separate 501c3.
Foundation, yes.
Yeah.
And I think there's Friends of the Museum or something as
So
well.
this would operate similar to that rather than a donation fund.
Mhm. So the ones that come in through our Fund 74 and 78, the Library Donation Fund and the Museum Donation Fund, come in and they operate under the policies of the city. So meaning if they're making purchases, they have to follow the city purchasing policy. If it is a separate 501c3, it goes by those guidelines of that entity.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Okay. Anyone else? Tammy? We've done the city administrator report. We've done that, right? So shall we move on to close the, no?
Yeah, you're in a public hearing, so you'll need to.
I'll have to close the public, that's
Yep,
what I was.
Yeah, double check, make
I
sure.
was gonna do that next. Okay, we're gonna close the public hearing then. And so we're going to do the introduction and adoption, all right? Well, the resolution, I'm going to read it. Okay, this is Resolution 18, Series 2024, entitled, "A Resolution of the City Council of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund and adopting a budget for the City of Canyon City, Colorado, for the calendar year beginning on the first day of January 2025 and ending on the last day of December 2025. For that, I would call for a motion and a second. Oh, Emily.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I move for approval of Resolution Number 18, Series of 2024.
Second.
Second, thank you.
And just minor discussion. I just wanted to verify that, for the record, that there weren't any members of the public that wish to speak on this topic. Seeing none, I'm ready to move
Okay.
on.
Any discussion on that motion in a second? None? Would you call roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to II. It's introduction and first reading by title only of Ordinance 11, Series 2024, entitled, "The Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado appropriating sums of money to various funds in the amounts and for the purpose as set forth below for the City of Canyon City, Colorado for the 2025 budget year." I would call for a motion in a second. Emily?
I move for approval of ordinance number 11, series of 2024 on first reading.
Second.
Second, John, thank you. Any discussion on that motion? Would you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, let's go on to B, introduction of first reading by title only of Ordinance 14, Series 2024, entitled, "An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, amending Chapter 17.13 of Title 17 of the Canyon City Municipal Code by the addition of a new section, 17.13.075, reaffirming the city's right to regulating housing occupancy limits." I hereby open the public hearing. We have Mr. Mulready discuss that for us.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This evening, we are here to consider an amendment to the city's Unified Development Code, which, as you know, is Title 17 of the city's municipal charter. Before we commence a discussion of the ordinance itself, it's necessary to provide some context as to what motivated the drafting of this ordinance. The 2024 Colorado legislative session, which concluded in June, produced 4 bills which advanced to the governor's office for signature. 3 of these bills, these bills were drafted in such a way that their subject matter overrode local land use regulations. The first 3 of these won't apply to Canyon City. They are regulations specifically addressing development around transit stops, a type of development known as a transit-oriented development, or TOD. State legislature appears to be creating legislation that is intended to push density around a transit stop. As well, HB 24-1152 also does not apply to Canyon City, as we already provide a pathway for property owners to receive approval for accessory dwelling units. It is the 4th of these bills that has concerned staff. HB 24-1007, as written, eliminates occupancy limits for residential dwelling units, again, in an apparent effort to push density. As written, this bill would eliminate any limit on the number of unrelated adults living within a single dwelling unit. This would directly supersede the definition of family as stated in section 17.13.070 of the Unified Development Code. The city's definition of family includes the provision that a group of up to 8 adult persons unrelated by blood, marriage, or adoption can occupy a residential structure and still fit the definition of family. Most Colorado municipalities contain a definition of family which would allow either 4 or 6 unrelated adults, so Canyon City's definition is already quite generous in comparison. Normally, legislation which emerges from the state legislature is focused on issues of statewide concern. This is the constitutional obligation of the legislative branch of state government. When the state legislature creates bills which override local government regulations, it typically occurs because numerous municipalities or counties have adopted regulations which conflict with one another, or the legislative branch has found that the proposed bill has extra or multi-jurisdictional facets associated with it, requiring the state to set the parameters within which all the involved local governments will work. What concerns staff is that in the case of HB 24-1007, no such argument of a multi or extra jurisdictional significance has been offered. The state has failed to make a convincing argument that an issue of statewide urgency exists on the definition of family. Given that Canyon City's definition of family is already more generous than most Colorado municipalities currently offer, it is unclear why the City of Canyon City should amend our Unified Development Code to remove the limitation of 8 unrelated adults and have no upper occupancy limit on the number of unrelated people living in a residence, particularly given how recent the adoption of our Unified Development Code is. Again, staff does not find that there is a statewide sense of urgency on this issue, nor has the state of Colorado made a compelling argument for why local governments need to amend their land use codes to eliminate residential occupancy limits. For this reason, staff has asked the city attorney to draft the ordinance contained in your agenda packets. The title of this ordinance states its intention. This ordinance does not make any changes to a development standard or requirement. Rather, it offers an affirmation next to the city's definition of family, which reads, among other things, the city rejects the assertion that the subject matter of CRS Section 29-20-111, which is HB 24-1007 codified, is a matter of mixed statewide and local concern, and determines that Section 29-20-111 is expressly superseded and preempted within the city by the Canyon City Municipal Code, specifically within the definition of family. The language of the ordinance makes the city's case that the state has not done its required job of demonstrating why an issue of statewide importance exists, and therefore why residential occupancy limits must be eliminated from all municipal codes statewide. Further, Canyon City is making this assertion under the auspices of our Home Rule Charter, something that the Colorado State Constitution provides for. Under our Home Rule authority, Canyon City is affirming that our Unified Development Code adequately addresses the issue of residential occupancy limits for the residents of Canyon City, and that we are therefore not making the requested change. So with that analysis understood, Council should be aware that Planning Commission conducted a public hearing on this matter the night of November 21st on Draft Ordinance 14, Series of 2024, and unanimously recommended Council approve the ordinance. Thus, staff and the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt the draft ordinance informing the state that we will not be amending the city's UDC to remove residential occupancy limits. This will conclude the staff presentation on this ordinance. As always, I am happy to answer any questions that the members of council may have. I believe that our city attorney is probably also going to want to weigh in on this conversation as well.
Go ahead, Corey.
Let me make a much more simple presentation. The state of Colorado is attempting to regulate zoning, which is a matter of local concern. It is our opinion the state does not have the authority to regulate on a matter of local concern. Therefore, this is simply reasserting the city's organic constitutional authority to regulate on a matter of local concern, here a matter of zoning. We're not notifying the state of anything. We are simply adopting in our code a provision that reaffirms that this is a matter of the city's home rule authority and that the state does not have the authority to preempt the city's jurisdiction on a zoning matter.
Thank you, Corey. Any other question? Oh, Andrea? You'll need your...
I just had one question, and it occurred to me, but it probably falls into a different kind of zoning. But say if someone had one of these, some of the old mansions that are in town, and they decided to, subdivide them into apartments or to have borders, would that be a different classification? And the requirement for the number of people in one house would be different?
So what would happen in a situation like that is that the house, the structure, as it is internally subdivided, becomes multifamily in nature. Therefore, each dwelling unit is considered a separate residence. So functionally, you can have, one family, or you can have up to 8 unrelated adults living within a residence, obviously provided that they're not exceeding a fire code limitation.
Thank you.
Good. I know it's maybe quibbling over semantics is when we say adults, what if you were doing foster care?
So foster care will fall under a different regulation under state statute, with a definition specifically for foster care and for the care of children. There are 3 exceptions for group homes. I believe foster care is one of them.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Anybody from the public like to come up and comment on this? Pretty quiet. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. I'm going to call for a motion and a second. Who would like to do that? Yes, Emily.
I move for approval of ordinance number 14, series of 2024 on first reading.
Second.
Made in second. Thank you. Any discussions on that motion?
I would just, I would like to thank staff and our attorneys for bringing this forward. I think this is, something that I think is of concern and should be addressed.
Thank you. Thank you, John. Would you call a roll, please?
Councilmember Denny, is he back on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Councilmember Denny,
Aye.
Maloney,
Aye.
Schmisher,
Aye.
Stein,
Aye.
Tracy,
Aye.
Worthington,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. I'd like to go on to C in the agenda. It's Drinking Water Revolving Fund for 2025 loan application. I hereby open the public hearing, and we'd our expert, Leo Evans, to the stand. Thank you, Leo.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Thank you for having us tonight. We're here today to host a public hearing in regards to the city seeking loans through the state's Drinking Water Revolving Fund to help pay for the water main replacement on a couple of projects that we're doing through our 2A program. Real quickly, this is part of the federal requirements that these loans come through. So I'm going to ramble through the things that they want me to say, and I'm going to make note that we do have a sign-in sheet here available for any members of the public that would like to sign in and acknowledge their presence at this meeting. Is not required in any way, but if you would like to sign in, catch me afterwards and I can get you a copy of that. All right, the purpose of these projects is to replace aging drinking water distribution systems that fall within a couple of our last major 2A projects. These 4 particular projects include Harding Avenue from 5th to 9th Street, 9th Street from Mystic to Meadows Avenue, College Avenue from 9th to 15th Street, and Griffin Avenue from 4th to 9th Street. These are some of the last major 2A projects that were prioritized by the city. These are all collector or arterial streets, major traffic generators in the city. And additionally, they all had substantial needs for water main investment to go along with the 2A investment. And the Drinking Water Revolving Fund is the mechanism that we've chosen to look at to help fund those needs. We reviewed a couple of alternatives when looking at this program. The first alternative we look at is a do-nothing alternative, wherein we leave the water mains in place and repair the streets as is. This comes as 0 cost, but has the substantial increase of long-term costs and maintenance issues and damage to brand new constructed roadways, and was determined to be not the preferred alternative for the city. The alternative that was preferred by the city was to replace the water mains in conjunction with the 2A project work. The water main cost for this is estimated at around $5.7 million for these 4 sections of roadway. The benefits of this will be the decrease of maintenance and repairs, improved fire flows and water flows throughout the system, and a minimizing of risk to our newly constructed 2A roadways. As these funds are federal funds, we're required to do environmental assessments and environmental impacts on these projects. All 4 of these projects have very limited impacts and are classified as categorical exclusions in the federal terminology. All the work falls within the existing established right-of-way of the public streets, and all of these are existing streets to begin with that will be rebuilt very similar to how they are now. The environmental assessment is still ongoing and is part of this process that we're working towards right now. Looking at construction impacts, these will be typical of any other roadway construction project. We will have road closures with detours, access restrictions, typical noise of heavy construction projects, material storage. These projects, I've got the schedule later on, so I'll skip that. The specific project financials for this program, as I mentioned earlier, the loan amount is right now estimated at about $5.7 million. We are still working on our final estimates. We've, in the back of our heads, kind of had the $6 million number as our target for what we would apply for. Rate increases, which I believe are on the agenda here later today. The rate increases that are proposed do include the debt service that would be required to pay for these loans. So just know that the, I believe, 7% rate increase that is on the agenda tonight does include the needed cash to service the debt on these loans. The alternative that was looked at in that sense was established through Travis's water rate study and master plan effort was a 25% increase to water rates to try to cash finance these projects in the short term to come up with, $6 million in the next 2 years to pay for this type of work. The loan option, again, using big numbers, as a $6 million loan, interest rates through this program are currently at about 3.5%. We do stand to receive roughly $1 million in principal forgiveness, which is essentially a grant, meaning our actual debt service or our actual debt will be $5 million. Financed over 30 years is roughly $320,000 a year of debt service. Construction schedules for these projects. We are anticipating bidding these projects later in 2025 and beginning construction in 2025. We're still trying to firm up which of them will be the most ready to go at this point in time. Our intention is that Harding Avenue and College Avenue are the most likely candidates for construction in 2025, and that Griffin and North 9th Street would be candidates for construction in 2026. And the last thing that we are required to comment on is that, just to note that all relevant materials for these projects are available for reviewing at City Hall. You can contact myself, L.A. Evans at CanyonCity.org, or 719-276-5291 to review and obtain copies of any project materials. And that's what I've got for you.
Thank you, Leo. Any questions of Leo while he's here? John.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the at the end of this public hearing, we're going to vote on this proposal for a loan application to the State Drinking Water Revolving Fund. Do I have that correct?
No, we are just taking comments from the public today on this program. And if there's any objections from the public or comments or concerns regarding this at this point in time.
There will be no action from council at this.
No action
at
from
this
council.
meeting.
This is just for public comment purposes. I do have another question, though, and that is that for when we do get to actually putting pen to paper for applying for the loan, we have to certify to the state that we have a conservation plan in place.
I don't believe that is a requirement for this particular
For this
program.
one.
I think
Okay.
that is one of the other grants that Travis has been looking at.
Thank you.
What expenditures do we have? So we've done the investigation on those water lines, and you're considering them, they need to be repaired or gotten rid of or something, replaced.
Mhm.
So there's no further engineering that we have to pay for to confirm to anybody, the state, the federal government, for instance. We just borrow the money on the fact that we have the funds cash flowing to make that payment.
Yeah,
Is that-
the state has a certain cap on how much funds they have available each year, and they score projects. They have what they call a priority project scoring criteria. I can't remember the exact acronym, but they look at all the community features, the need, you know, our history of requesting loans, things like that. They've gone through that on a preliminary basis, and we do score above the minimum threshold to be able to fund these. So that's all the work we have to do, other than actually doing the engineering to design these projects and bid them out.
Leo, or maybe Travis, the infrastructure that's in the streets, 50-plus years old, correct?
I believe some of it's more like 100 years old. Many of these have large leak histories, lots of
Okay.
breaks.
That's what I thought. Okay. Andrea?
Leo, I was just wondering, I heard something about the county is planning to do some kind of upgrades or repairs to the sewer system along the Central Avenue area. Would that impact the area you're going to be working on for Harding Avenue?
No, I believe the sanitation district work is all to the east of 15th Street, I believe. Yes. No, should not impact.
So ours will be west.
Ours is to the west, yes. Between 5th and 9th is our project.
Thank you.
Okay. Amy?
Thanks. I just wanted to commend y'all for providing all of the information to all of the various districts that are out there, and that they are aware of these projects, and to ensure that we're deconflicting in advance so that we don't have a situation where we are opening up the street only to find out a year later that they needed the street to be open. So just appreciate all of the hard work and planning that goes in kind of behind the scenes to making sure that these are as effective as they possibly can be. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody from the public who would like to speak at this time? Thank you, Leo. Hearing none, then I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and move on to discussion, which is item 10. I better put my glasses on here. Award bid 69.24-24, 8th and Pine hydraulic ditch crossing replacement to Langston Concrete Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $532,944.50. I can have the administrator discuss it.
Actually, we may call Leo back up here for this one. Normally, this would be on the consent agenda. However, because it's a 2025 expenditure, we put it on the agenda after the approval of the budget. This is a normal expense that we have budgeted for a ditch crossing. Council earlier in the year approved the pre-purchase of the culvert for this project in order to help with timing while the ditch is off. And one other note, it does say that it was reviewed by legal. It was not reviewed by legal. That was a mistype. Legal does not typically review our bids.
Any questions?
Nothing else from me.
Nothing else. Are those big pipes laying out there next to the county, to our maintenance shed? There's some pretty big pipes out there.
No, those are
No?
not.
Oh,
It should arrive mid-January.
I believe January 10th is our arrival date for this culvert material. Yeah.
Great. Any questions of Leo or the administrator? Okay, then I would call for a motion and a second. Somebody. Oh, Emily.
I move for approval of awarding bid 69-24 for the hydraulic ditch crossing replacement to Langston Concrete in the amount not to exceed $532,944.50.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Any discussions on that motion? Okay, would you call roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to B. It's second reading adoption by title only of ordinance 8, series 2024, entitled an ordinance of the City of Canyon City amending Section 3.12.070 of the Canyon City Municipal Code concerning vendor fees and sales tax remittance. Could we hear from the city administrator?
This is a second reading. Tammy, have we had any additional public comment?
We did not have any additional public comment. We did have one change to the ordinance, and that was, we changed the ordinance from reading the effective date was changed from 5 days after the final publication if it is published after adoption, or if not published 5 days after its adoption, to shall be published after adoption and be effective January 1st, 2025. By changing the date to January 1st, 2025, it gives the Colorado Department of Revenue a clear-cut date for the implementation of the change.
Okay. Do we have to, if we pass this, or on second reading, we're going to pass it, that's going to be incorporated in here? Do we have to?
It already is.
It's already
shown in there, yes.
Okay. Okay. All right, then I would ask for a motion and a second.
I move that we pass the ordinance number 8, series of 2024 on second reading.
Second? Anybody?
Second.
Thank you, John. Any discussion on that motion? Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, this is also C, which is a second reading and adoption by title only of Ordinance 9, Series 2024, entitled amending Title 3 of the Canyon City Municipal Code concerning the addition of a new fund and amending Sections 3.12.010 and 3.13.010 to codify the additional sales and use tax approved by the registered electors of the city on November the 5th, 2024. Do we need comments from the administrator?
Again, this is a second reading. There is a change in this reading as well. This ordinance, the revised ordinance, has a definition for to support financing, and I don't know if our city attorney wants to comment on that or not.
I certainly can, but it's just to clarify any ambiguity that could be alleged related to that language.
And I have not received any public comment regarding Ordinance 9. Tammy?
I have not either, and the changes that were requested at our November 18th meeting are also included in that ordinance.
Okay. Hearing no more further comment, I'd ask for a motion and a second. John?
Mr. Mayor, and council, I move that we approve on second reading the bill for ordinance number 9, series of 2024.
That's it.
I'll second.
Second, Gerald. Emily, did you have a comment?
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any discussion on that motion?
Just that this is really a big step
It is.
forward towards a pool, although it seems rather mundane and run-of-the-mill tonight. Probably we should have had some champagne somewhere, but thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Probably. Would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
And I think maybe we're getting a little giddy. This is a long night. Okay, let's go to D, introduction and adoption by title only of Resolution 16, Series 2024, entitled, a resolution levying general property taxes for the year 2024 to help defray the cost of government for the city of Canyon City, Colorado, for the 2025 budget year. Could we hear from the city administrator?
I will hand it over to Tammy, our finance director, to cover the mill levy.
So Resolution 16, Series of 2024 levies the general property taxes for the 2025 budget year. The mill levy must be certified to the county by December 15th, 2024. This resolution sets the total mill levy for the city at 2.887 mills, with anticipated revenue of $564,538.78 based on the December 2nd, 2024 certification valuation by the Fremont County Assessor. This is approximately $11,825.78 more in revenue than the 2024 mill levy. The mill levy does not include, we are not levying an abatement mill levy this year. This is our maximum mill levy that the city has had in place for a number of years.
As Tammy mentioned, this is the certified version. What was in the packet was uncertified, so at the dais at each of your desks, you have the certified copy of what that looks like.
Okay, are there any questions of Tammy or Ryan? Hearing none, I would call for a motion in a second.
I move we approve resolution number 16, series of 2024.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second, thank you, John. Any discussion on that motion? No, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
You have to turn your sound on. He's got a thumbs up.
Okay.
Okay, 2 thumbs up. You can only vote once.
Maloney?
Aye. Thank you.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to E. Introduction and adoption by title only of Resolution 17, Series 2024, establishing the 2025 pay structure. We'd have Tammy or, there's Butch, our HR Director. Would you care to comment?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. Basically, this resolution moves the pay ranges for all of our positions. Each of our employees receives a wage that is within the pay range for that particular position. This adjusts the ranges for the positions, not the employee pay, so that we stay competitive, and it also allows us to ensure that our employees, as they get their COLAs, don't eventually work themselves out of the pay range. So we have to adjust these as well.
Okay, thank you, Butch. Any questions, or Tammy or Ryan, would you like to add to that? I think, to me, it's fairly clear, but, any other questions of council, clarification? Oh, Amy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Troutman. Just one question. Is there a reason why the wage range and the COLA aren't synced each year?
So it allows, it's an effort to minimize compression as we hire new employees so that they're not receiving a wage that's close to what our existing employees are already getting.
So typically, we would see wage range increases that are slightly less than the COLA? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amy. Anyone else? Questions? No questions, no hard questions for Butch? Come on. Thank you. All right, then, I'd call for a motion and a second. Let's see, Kathy?
Yeah?
Why, my goodness.
This is an easy one. I
This
can
is
do
an easy one, yeah.
I move that we adopt Resolution 17.
Okay.
Second.
Second, thank you, Amy. Any discussions on that motion? If not, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, let's move on to F. Introduction and first reading by title only of Ordinance 12, Series of 2024, entitled, An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, amending Section 13.08.080 and Appendix 13.08 of the Canyon City Municipal Code regarding water rates. And I see that our water superintendent is here. Would you like to open up, discuss it?
Sure. So
At the September 25th Water Committee, Raftellus presented two options for rate increase. The first, not taking on debt in any of the future capital projects. The water main reconstruction, working with 2A, and possible service line replacement lined out year one, 25% rate increase, followed by a year two, 15% rate increase. And that was to be followed by 8 years of 7% increases. The second option was taking on debt for those two capital projects and lining out the 7% increase for 10 years. The Water Committee's direction was to present the 7% increase to the 11/6/24 General Gov meeting. As discussed in tonight's memo, rate structure, or how each customer class should contribute, will be finalized this week. Staff feels the subject should have plenty of time for discussion. The results from Raftellus will be discussed at the January 29th Water Committee meeting. Recommendations will be forwarded to the February 5th General Government Committee meeting, and council meetings in March will follow for ordinance. As presented in the memo, this ordinance also cleans up code language from changes made in 2023. The definition of city rates should have been changed not only in the appendix 13.08, but also section 13.08080. And you guys should have received the red line version and the clean versions of the code changes. As an example, average residential inside bills monthly would increase $2.87 with a 7% increase. There really isn't a great average for non-res inside. It varies so much, but the price per 1,000 gallons would increase about 23 cents for inside non-res. So there's some information for you to chew on. Happy to take any questions or comments.
John? Amy?
No.
Amy?
Thanks so much, Travis. Really appreciate the work that I know that goes into the water rates every year. I think this is my third year saying this. I am really concerned about subsidizing some water rate classes by other water rate classes, and I think that this continues to kick that can down the road, but thankfully only for 3 more months, which I really appreciate. Could I ask what direction is being provided to Raftellus for the work that they will be doing in advance of that January 29th Water Committee meeting?
So really no direction. I mean, I wanted their data to speak for, you know, what each customer class should pay. The one thing that we did ask them to evaluate was creating a government rate class, for lack of a better term, but that would be for consecutive systems, for city rate, and the golf course rate could be included in that as well if that's what we would like to do. So just kind of creating that one customer class for all those entities.
So, sorry, to be clear, what each customer class should pay, is the should there based on what their actually, what their expenses actually are, or is there some sort of policy direction that's going into that should?
That should is really what the infrastructure needs are to serve those different kinds of customer classes. So the reason why the golf course may fit in more neatly with the city rate or the consecutive system rates is those customer classes each have generally one large service line and infrastructure to support that one large service line. Where you have non-res customer classes or residential, those are comprised of many service lines. There's a lot more of those types of customer classes around. So the reason to kind of maybe group those together is they really fit as far as their infrastructure needs, how much, how big the water mains have to be to serve them, fire protection, things of that nature. Does that answer your question?
But that doesn't necessarily change the costs associated with providing them water, or the costs of the water itself.
Well, I mean, it's the formula they use to come up with how much each customer class should pay.
Okay. I think I have a lot more questions, but I'm also cognizant of the fact that it's 10 till 8, so perhaps I could set up a meeting with you and Ryan to ask those questions and better understand what the should is behind there. Because all I want to do is make sure that each user is paying their fair share based on what their costs actually are. And I'm definitely not the expert on any of those things, so I want to better understand kind of the direction that we're providing behind the
And that
should.
was the direction to Raphtalis, was to make sure that costs are being covered.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Emily?
Yep, happy to talk about
Just to
more.
be
Thank you. I appreciate
clear
that.
about what we're doing tonight, what we're looking at for consideration tonight just equates that 7% across all classes.
Correct.
And so then when we get the recommendations from the consultant and the water committee has a chance to look at it and so forth, then we'll know more about what we're talking about in terms of what class of customer drives what costs. But for now, we're just looking at a 7% across all classes. Thank you.
Amy?
Thanks. I also understand that the 4 Mile Ranch Golf Course had come and asked us to keep their costs in the same rate class that they were in for a year so that they could make certain adjustments, including turf reduction and other adjustments to their facilities. Have they done that?
I don't know what percentage of turf reduction they are at, but I know they have been working on it. They certainly have dried up some spots on their fairways and whatnot, but as far as a percentage of overall, I don't know where they're at on that.
We can ask for an update on that. It's been a couple of months since Rick Harmon and I met with them, and they were working on that plan, so we can see where they're at.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. And I think there were a couple of other commitments that they had made, so just making sure that we get an update on
Yeah,
those.
I
would
think
be
year
great.
2 was tied to an affordable housing component of their plan development.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you all. Any other comments or discussions? I would ask for a motion and a second. Would like to do that. Emily?
Move for approval of ordinance number 12, series of 2024 on first reading.
Second.
Second. Thank you. Any discussions on that motion? A second. Not, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Okay, let's go on to G. And we have, this is it. Oh, my goodness. Introduction and first reading by title only of Ordinance 13, Series of 2024, entitled, an ordinance increasing the base rate used to calculate stormwater management fees chargeable by the city's stormwater utility enterprise. Would that be Travis or Ryan?
I think Travis or Leo could probably jump in if needed. This did go before Water Committee. I believe what Water Committee recommended was an inflationary increase of 3%, and that is what staff has brought to council, is a 3% increase in stormwater rates.
Okay, any questions of Ryan or Leo? He looks awful comfortable back there. Let's ask him questions. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, you done? Oh, Amy, sorry.
No question, just a comment. I think we, whoever decides to make a motion, if a motion is made, would need to strike the second whereas, because we aren't providing additional personnel to expand the service.
Did we do that? So moved? I saw that, you had discussed that.
Yeah, that is something that carried over from
Yeah.
previous ordinances.
So. Okay, then I'd ask for any other discussions. I'd ask for a motion and a second at this time. I'd make it, but I can't. Oh, I'm sorry, Emily. I'm sorry. I heard it. I heard the tapping. I heard the tapping.
We have sound.
Thank you. It's been a long night.
I do have a motion. I move for approval of ordinance number 13, series of 2024, striking the second whereas.
Second.
Second, thank you. Motion made and second. Any discussion on that? Would you call roll, please?
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Maloney?
Aye.
Schmisher?
Aye.
Stein?
Aye.
Tracy?
Aye.
Worthington?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Well, thank you. I sincerely want to thank all of you for your patience and your really smart discussions. Again, have the rest of your evening, and we are now adjourned. Thank you.